Welcome to another episode of Life and Times with Tubb City. As the host, I'm always grateful for the incredible guests we've had on the show who've left a lasting impression on my life. So today I want to talk about the company that's been making a difference in countless lives all across America. Penn Waste. PIN stands for Power in Numbers. Penn Waste is revolutionizing the way HOAs manage their waste and recycling services. They've developed the Penn app, which empowers HOAs to negotiate group deals for services like pest control, bulk item removal, trash can cleaning, and most importantly, trash and recycling. Think of Penn Waste as the perfect blend of Groupon and Nextdoor, designed exclusively for HOAs. Their platform allows communities to leverage their size and secure the best deals with vendors. I'm all about bringing value to your life, and that's why we partnered with Penn Waste. Ready to lower your waste bill and make a positive impact? Then just visit www.pennwaste.com and mention that you heard about them from the Life and Times with Tubb City podcast. Their services are available nationwide, so everyone can join the Penn Waste movement. Save money, go green, and make a difference with Penn Waste today.
Okay, so you said that she called you a liar.
Yes, she did. She didn't want to believe anything that I had to say. She said, he said you were crazy. He said you would do this. And I think I laughed. And so then I started sending her pictures. I'm like telling her timelines about what she thought was really happening. I'm like, He was just here. You know, and there was some other, some kind of below the belt stuff I did, which I had never done before.
Oh, you went to petty.
Oh, I went to petty Polly with capital P's. I was
Petty Pendergrass.
There you go. Whatever it is. I was petty this time. I had never been that. And I really did not care. And even looking back now, I tried to warn you. I mean, petty.
Yeah, I want to know what the petty
is.
Yeah,
I sent pictures of
the X-rated shit.
Yes.
Oh.
And he never thought I would do that. So once I did that, he was like, "Bitch, I never thought you did that." Gaslighting again. Yep. And he tried to guilt me. Make it all my fault, and I'm like, what are you talking about? We are still married. So we had not even filed for divorce at this point.
You were sending revenge porn.
Oh yeah.
And
then she's like,
to the side chick. I don't think it's supposed to go like that.
I am petty.
You're right. The wife is sending the revenge porn to the side chick. Now get up out my way.
This is a first.
You heard it here on Maury.
Oh gosh. Hey, man.
Yep. Hey, that was me.
But you were checked out at this moment. This
was me when I was like, I have to be done. Fuck you.
Right.
Yeah. Boom.
And you were just angry with her because she had started throwing some below the belt.
Yeah. And then you're going to defend him?
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm like, okay, you're not married to him. You have no kids with him. Why would you why would you not believe me? Because I didn't start petty. I started truthful. And I was friends with her sister. I was messaging her because this is funny. Because I had called him and I said, okay, I know what's really going on. I had seen some pictures and he's like, you're crazy. You're crazy. Just ask her. Just ask them. Ask the sister, ask her. So I hung up and that's when I went petty. I mean, I didn't go petty at first, but that's when I reached right out to him and I'm like, what is going on? And the sister initially was like, I'm so sorry. I wanted to tell you.
The sister knew the whole time.
Yeah, the sister knew. But she thought we were going through a divorce, which, if you look back to the youngest mom, he'd been telling her whole family. He'd been on family vacation with them.
Oh.
He had taken my son to her daughter's school event while we were fully married, telling them we were getting a divorce, which, of course, I'm finding out
Well, he was still
now.
living at the house?
Yes.
So how does he go on a vacation for...
Good question, because
because you said he was
he was in the Guard, so he would be gone for weekends or
so he said he went to work.
Would go out of town with a friend. Yep. So now putting it all together, and this is
so y'all didn't talk when he was on vacation.
Yeah, we did. We'd FaceTime, talk, Snapchat, whatever.
Did they know?
The other girls?
Probably not.
I mean, I don't know how they would. But see, the new one, she said, I let him go to Mexico.
What?
She told you that?
Yep. And I'm like, wait a second. When we went to Mexico, I thought things were fine. And she's like, oh, yeah, I mean, I knew you guys were getting divorced. And so I let him go to Mexico because it was for your friend's wedding celebration or whatever.
But when you got
And
back
I'm
from
like-
Mexico, you heard from the other chick,
Yeah,
not the one he was with.
Exactly. And she knew about our Mexico trip. So
So he was telling everybody about Mexico.
But she told me that he had came back and was with the other side chick, which is how she found out about our whole trip, which I tell the current side chick, and she still calls me a liar. And so at this point, I'm like, have him. Good luck.
Petty briefcase opened.
And here's his rap sheet.
Here are the files are ready to go.
Encrypted.
Yep. Here's the rap sheet. Go have it. And she's still with him. So,
okay. Did this, as y'all say, the town of 50 people,
It is.
did this cause separation within your community of friends and family or whatever?
yeah. I mean, so even though I went petty with her, I didn't go petty because there were so many months. I filed for divorce, going through the divorce. I hardly told anybody.
That you were getting a divorce or separated?
Either.
Do you think people around the town knew? Like, because they had seen things
What's
behind your back? Because remember, you were still being a housewife. You at the home.
Yep.
You take
it's
care
a
of the
small
house.
town.
Yep.
You doing this. You doing that. You not stepping out often.
Yeah, but see, he's in the other town where he worked, which is like 45 minutes away, which is more of a city. I still can't imagine that he didn't run into people and people didn't know what was going on. But it's funny because recently, and a friend of mine had said, she actually made a comment about how my picker was off. And I'm like, my picker might have been off a little bit. I mean, it was off. But when I fell in love with him or when I loved him or whatever happened, he seemed like a good guy. Everybody loved him. So I want to tell everyone else, like, well, your pickers were off because they all don't even believe some of the things that I've said. They've, how would he, hit me? How would he traumatize me with some of the things that have happened to me? How would he use that against me verbally? Like, how would he be such a terrible person? And I'm like, well, so, the joke's on you too. Like, the joke was on me, but the joke was on a lot of people. Like, my family loved him, and he's a very likable guy. And even now, because he's in the military and some things have come out about that, I mean, they don't even believe it, but they have to believe it because the truth is on paper. And I mean, there's things that he's lied about and stuff like that, but
they have your back now. They support you. And
yeah,
they
I mean, I have a very small friend group now.
Did
it
cut
get
down?
smaller?
It dwindled?
Yes, it's gotten even smaller. Not necessarily because I knew anybody within our friends knew that, but because I think I've just learned that my life is safer and happier that way.
So it wasn't because they chose sides?
No.
All right.
I mean, I've heard from a lot of his friends in support, but they don't want him to necessarily know that.
So the people
But
on
you
his
got to be
side-
cautious of them, though.
Yeah, oh, that's
His
exactly
friends,
why
them-
they're not my friends.
Yeah, they be the ones that be sliding your DMs.
Yeah.
You open it up, and
that's
it's a
exactly
picture of
why.
the stand.
Exactly why they're not my friends.
What you think of this? You laying out, spread out. But that's
Go
his-
that
that's
velvet
his
rope
boy.
again.
Yeah, but that's his boy though. So they know there's trouble
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
trouble water.
Oh, there's
and then
a
they
whole
hit you
list.
up on the low.
Yep, there's a whole list of those.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just.
But you feel better about your execution of the list of cutting it down?
Yeah. When I say safer, kind of going back to the sexual trauma, none of my friends, no one ever knew about that. So when you're in a group of people and you're married and people make jokes or make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, it's different when I'm sitting here and like, here's my husband. When I would be in that group of people and my husband wasn't there, I started to feel not comfortable.
How were you treated from your friends that left you? The sexual trauma incident.
Mm-hmm.
How were you treated after that? Like when they found out?
Yeah.
Since I don't speak to them anymore, I have
Okay,
no idea.
so-
I don't even know if they know.
I mean, I'm sure they heard this. The town ain't that big.
But that was college, so those people are from all different places.
Yeah.
So I don't even know, to be honest. I know that I've heard from a lot of people that I was really good friends with and still am friends with now, just don't see often. wondering if it was them because the timeline, they really didn't know. And what they've said is it could have been any of us, you know, because of how careless you are and how kind of naive you are, because you are from a small town and you don't think it could happen to you.
Who is the most surprising phone call, text, or message that just surprised you, blew you away, that I can't believe this person watched, listened or whatever?
I mean,
is there anybody that jumps out?
I don't want to.
You don't have to say their name.
Yeah, I don't want to like discredit anyone that's messaged me, because so many people have said, you know, this is what actually happened to me, and then they would tell me their story,
really, and
I could be an ear for them, and so all those messages have been impactful. But the most surprising is, and this is, you know, like the saying says, you always like wait for an apology that might never come. And for the longest time, I just wanted him to tell me he was sorry.
Who?
My ex. I wanted him to tell me that he was sorry for everything that he's done. Even after I thought, you know, maybe he would say something. But then to hear from the youngest mom, honestly, was probably the most impactful for me, because she told me, she said, thank you for taking up space on this earth. Mm-hmm. And then she told me, thank you for giving Gray 5 years with his brothers. And yeah.
That's dope. I mean, that just shows the type of person you are, because you were doing it in good faith, as everybody should do.
Yeah.
You know, because kids are innocent. They don't have anything to do with whatever the problems are that the parents are going through.
Yeah. And I think it also speaks to the person that she is. I think that's when I mean, before that, I had realized she was a good person, and that he had traumatized her as well. But for her to say that and actually see me, because so many people have said, why didn't you leave the first time? Or you should have. I've heard a lot of that after the podcast came out.
Really?
They'd say, well, I knew you should have left him the first time, like after he had the baby, you know.
It's easy to coach when you're on the sideline.
It's easy to, it's so easy. And so to get that validation from her was probably like the biggest.
Like it
was like a gift, because it was like, okay, somebody saw why I stayed and why I put up with it. Because her and I have had great conversations. I've said, you know, if I wouldn't have stayed after Gray, I could have had another kid. I could have started over. But then, you know, even her saying that, he wouldn't have had those 5 years knowing his brothers and knowing that family, and even knowing me. I mean, he still gets excited every time we talk. He still calls me the same thing. And so, you know, that's probably been the best gift out of the whole thing.
That's dope. Do you, switching gears, you had your parents, has that changed? Not that it was bad, but
yeah, I think that was the hardest part, though, because, you know, we recorded it as a test in June. It was like June-ish. So for them to hear it in January, when things had like kind of really mended themselves, because I mean, not everything, but things were better in January. So then to prepare them to say, okay.
Did you prep them? Did you give them a heads up, like you're about to hear some things, or did you say, let's see?
I definitely said, okay, you're going to hear some things, and just remember, it's from my perspective and how I felt about things, and I'm not sure how you're going to feel about it, and you're going to hear some things that are going to be really hard to listen to. Yeah. I did that with them, and so yeah, I mean, it's been amazing though, because it's opened up conversations about things that we never talked about. You know, back to the childhood, like the eating disorder, and you know, of the sexual trauma. Like I said, nobody knew except for my ex.
And there's so many things that, I mean, we're using you as an example, that are taboo, that people don't talk about with their mom and dad, their brother and sister, their kids, that you put out there, and then people are like kind of raising their hand, like, yo, I went through this.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? And it just opens the conversation to, hopefully you lit a light bulb in other people, that they can have these conversations within their friends, family, kids, parents, because you gotta talk about things, whether they're tough or not, because if you don't, you're gonna get caught off guard in the wrong way. And, you know, I just think about that with, you know, my kids, you know, my people. So I commend you on that. Like,
yeah, and it's hard to think about because when I was, 8 and it all started, that self-image, social media wasn't even really, it wasn't a thing.
yeah,
Right.
So to think about like, your daughters, of course, yours is like, grown, but to think about the age of 8, like what's going on at age 8 and what they're going to have to deal with now. I mean, it's scary, honestly, but it's
still sleeping in my mama's bed at 8. I didn't get that shit up to about 11. I was cuddled up. Shit.
we going to bed, mama?
We. I'm on her leg. I'm like, man, mama, when we going to bed? Tired, bro. Shit, I'm tired as hell.
So how do you navigate those conversations with your son?
I mean, so of course, since my podcast was never supposed to come out, I let him listen before because, I knew he was going to possibly hear about it. He's 11 now, and it's tough things to have conversations about, but him and I have had to have a lot of really tough conversations, in the last year.
Raising the young man.
Yeah.
Got to.
And so, one thing I told him is that I would never lie to him. I will always tell you the truth. Mm-hmm. And so, letting him hear that. And, the first thing that he said after he listened was he's like, man, Mom, you talked about some really tough things. Like it wasn't that tough.
Wow.
And he's been my biggest fan, honestly, and supporter. So, it really wasn't that tough. I mean, he's kind of goes through self-image stuff himself, and so working on that and trying to find that balance of pushing him to be healthy but not wanting him to be overly conscious. Yeah. So I think it's important to have the open dialogue because he's a tall kid, he's a big kid for his age, and so I think it's made him feel safer.
I mean, as a parent, when you said you had to stay strong for him through the divorce and showing up in that way, but then letting him listen to the podcast, like shows that, yeah, I can be strong, but I'm not, like, there are hard things I've gone through. And that's so important for him to know in life. There's going to be some real tough stuff. Like there's going to be hard, and you can come out on the other end of that. Yeah. And he sees the strength in you. Like talk about like a hero,
absolutely.
That is the strength that he
You're
can look
superwoman
towards.
to
Real.
But it's also it's given me space to not be that also. Yeah. And so even him at 11 and trying to raise him to be a good man when he doesn't really have that example set for him, I feel like it's almost empowered him to be there for me more and to like see when I might be struggling a little bit. And man, I'm telling you, he is like, he's always patting me on the back, telling me good job. Thank you for everything, like little things.
Well, he also realized he's the man in the house now. So he walking around with a little strut. He's poking his chest out. Got his head up. Like, yeah. It's all good till his ass don't want to take that trash out. And then you out there logging that. Right.
Go get that switch.
Right.
What you mean?
That's great.
So, for the most part, it's been a good experience.
Yes.
What now? Like, and when I say what now, like let's say you put your part 1 out, then this is coming out, and then what is your growth to keep getting healthier within yourself?
Oh, I don't know. That's a tough one.
I mean, do you keep talking? Do you start a book club? Do you go speak?
Do you journal?
I haven't for so many years.
But you used to?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's good.
I don't know. I feel like we talked about my balloon popping in the last one. Really just being self-aware of the stuffing part. I did see a therapist for a little bit after the divorce. And one thing that she was teaching me about was just kind of knowing my value, which of course we haven't even talked to who asked me last night. He's like, well, what do you do for a living? I'm like, well, we didn't even talk about that on the podcast because, I'm a social worker. So you'd think I would be smarter about this type of stuff. I'm very educated and I'm good at educating families and parents on things, but I wasn't doing that for myself. You look at, clearly I'm educated in the cycle of domestic violence. Verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual assault.
This is what you
eating
do.
disorders. This is what I do every day. But I was so focused on everyone else that I was never focused on me. And so really being self-aware of how to not let that happen again.
With you, that being your background in your job, when you look back now, did you have the answers? Or you couldn't do it? If you just wanted to say, I'm going to fix it because I know the answers, or did you have to go through the things that you had to go through?
I think I felt like at the time I could fix it, but I just turned my head. And because I was just seeing what I wanted to see.
Okay.
And I was just really stuck in, I want my family to be together. Even before the youngest, because there were things that happened before he came about. So I really was just ignorant to my own demise, basically.
Yeah.
And to be honest, when the first part came out, I was, I talked a lot about shame. I was carrying shame about it coming out because I'm like, man, people are going to be like, what kind of social worker is she? What kind of mom is she? What kind of wife was she? Look at all these things that happened, the things that she ignored, the things that she put her kids through, the things that she put herself through,
Yeah.
Everyone's made sacrifices. Everyone's been blinded by love at some point in their life.
Yeah.
And the level of empathy that you come in now, the work that you do isn't by chance.
Yeah.
Like you were there because you might have been struggling within, but you were putting out the help for everybody else. And now you're finally getting the space to say, I got to also help myself.
Yeah. And I think at the point when it came out too, I was thinking, at first I was so scared about what people would say or think. People were saying and thinking so many things behind my back anyways, right? I mean, when Grayson was a baby, I would walk around with him on our weekends and everyone would say, oh, your baby's so cute. And, it was so hard because some people knew that he was not mine and some people thought that he was.
And nobody wanted that really.
No, but nobody would just say straight up like, oh, I mean, I think somebody did. They were like, you're way too small. You did not just have a baby, because at that point I had gotten really small. And then
they probably just came and touched his hair.
Yeah.
White people be fascinated with mixed kids' hair. Yeah, they be fascinated with mixed kids' hair.
Yes.
Touch my daughter's hair again, I'm you up.
Yes. What is he?
Right. Like a human. Like a human. Like, oh man, Jesus.
The cutest baby. Right. That's what he is. But yeah, so people were talking anyway. So once it came out, I'm like, you know what? I mean, here it is. Like, use it against me or don't. I really don't care.
Yeah.
Even with the ex, like, okay, what are you gonna say?
The truth.
Yeah. And they say the truth will set you free. It sounds so corny, but it's a thing.
Yeah.
And Jerome was out there tooting and booting. Boy was out there getting it. His game is ruined now. All the kids is gonna hear this shit.
There will always be somebody. There will always be somebody.
Oh, you're right.
Should be a young somebody this time, though. It'll be a young one.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Oh man.
Especially if they trailer park and shit.
I feel like it's safe to say you're like the second famous person in Leota now.
Hilarious.
You got Steve Tasker.
I was just gonna say
Steve, good old Stevie.
my grandma would be so proud.
and you, like, I think you've made the town, the Leotian. It's Leodians, right?
Leotian.
Leotians.
Indian.
Okay. Leotians. I think you made them proud.
Some of them.
Uh-oh.
Let's not go there.
You made yourself proud.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the way that Jay was proud of it, like that made everything worth it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, but like you said, you got Jay, and you got the youngest, his mother. Like the validation, not that you needed it, you got it from the sources that made sense to you.
Yeah, I mean, even my family, I have the most supportive family. And I think that's one thing that I didn't say in the first part is that I carried all that around with me for no reason.
You didn't have to.
I didn't have to. And so everyone has said, I'm so sorry I wasn't there, or I'm so sorry I didn't do things different. And I know that that's their own like guilt about it, but that's not on them. Like it really was on me to carry that for all those years. Because when you think about it, I mean, from 8 to now, I mean, the eating disorder parts, there are people that knew about that. The sexual part, like nobody knew except for him. And, you know, going back to that, that's one thing that he used against me. I touched on trauma and trauma. That's one way that that's one thing that he would use against me. And so because I had told the person that I thought was supposed to keep me safe and protect me, I tell them and then they use it against me. I was never going to tell another person.
Can you go into detail how? I'm trying to ruin his ass.
Real.
No, but I'm being for real.
I
Like,
mean,
how would he? I want to
Yeah.
find out what type
So-
of person would use something like that against, like, your wife.
Yeah. I mean, there were times he told me I deserved it.
Oh, come on.
No.
Nah, bro.
Yeah.
Nah, bro. Nah, man.
So, you know, when I had felt safe to say it and then I hear that, like I'm never, you know, because I already felt like that. I felt like it was my fault. Like I put myself in that place. I felt like I did deserve it. So then for that to be validated by the one person that I told.
So you like, nah.
But that's what that silences you even more. Not
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
Not that you're choosing. It's like you're being silent. He was silencing you.
Yeah.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
That's not good. Sorry to hear that. Wow. And the preacher say amen. No, we're gonna wrap up, but appreciate you for telling your stories, and opening up. It's a lot of people can, you know, talk about things, but a lot of people don't open up and give their true self, and you've proven that, you know, you did it, and I know you've helped people, you know, and that's a big thing, and I think that's what we're trying to do on here, and to have people like Dr. Good and M. Dot come on here and commend you also. I thank you. Any last words, M?
Man, I don't know where to begin, but listening to part 2 on the way over here, that's when you like, you got to listen to part 2.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I wasn't ready for it.
You what?
Nah, I wasn't ready for it.
Because you didn't get.
I didn't.
I was trying to like tell you, but
You trying to tell me, but not tell me.
yeah.
I wasn't ready for it. But to hear it and to hear how open you are, to hear how you've grown from that is quite, like, I applaud you.
Thank you.
And what you're doing, raising your boy now, like I grew up with just my mom. So, and I remember how I viewed her and still view her to this day. She's the strongest person I know. I never knew that we were having issues. I never knew that, you know, we didn't have no food and shit like that. I always had lunch money. Like, my mom wore both hats. And I never longed to meet my father because my mom was so strong. So to see you raise, you know, your son now, like, that's super dope. You know, there may be times where you feel like shit, like the whole world is just on top, but you're doing a fantastic job. Because again, like, I come from that, and I can see it, you know. So,
Thank you.
Dr. Good.
What I love about this is that, like, I can see you just getting started. right? Like you have such an incredible like path ahead of you, and that you came and gave yourself in such a vulnerable way in this space to anybody that would listen. It just opens up and frees you to like live that life that you so deserve with your son and the people that love you and that are in your life. Like, I am so privileged to just get a little piece of like meeting you, because this is so powerful and you are such an inspiration, and that I'm like so excited that even my daughter was able to like hear your story and see your strength.
Thank you.
Like, I'm excited what's to come.
Thank you.
Yeah, this ain't the end of the road,
For
man.
real.
I think you use this platform and keep elevating. I think like we were joking around, there was a lot of jokes being cracked, but like the book club and shit like that. But no, like you should use this platform.
I think you gotta speak.
Yeah, you gotta do more stuff.
Yeah.
Especially within the town.
Yeah. I think that's the one thing that I just would want people to know is that from 18 to 40, I lost so much time. And I would not want the women that have reached out to me, mostly women. I say I have heard from a couple men too. Like, there's no reason to waste that time and carry that with you. Like, so much life to live. You never know when it's going to be cut short, and, deal with it. And there's so much freeing and just letting that shit go.
I wonder how many unhappily married women are, heard that story, just heard your story and are probably going through the same thing, but they can't even say anything.
Yeah.
In that town.
Yeah.
It's probably quite a few.
Yeah. And
that heard the story.
Yeah.
They're like, shit, I know, Bob should know me as well.
Real, I don't need to be in this.
Yeah.
She out here living her best life now. I want my best life.
Yeah. It's true.
Go get your best life. Go get your best life.
Yeah.
For sure.
You're gonna help people for sure. I think you just use this platform and continue to elevate, because people definitely want to hear from it.
Yeah,
I want to hear from it.
I push you to find speaking women, children, whoever. Like, I push you to speak and try to start and using your voice, because it's in you. You know what I'm saying? I think that's the next evolution of this process. And, I just want to thank you for being on the show. M. Dot, thank you for coming.
Sure, man.
Yeah,
Dr.
thank
Good.
you.
Little Dr. Good. Thank y'all for another episode of Life and Times with Tubb City. When this episode was with Megan Marie Haines. Thank you.
Boom.
Yay.
You can come in now.
For real.